Hello, everybody. I hope you hear me fine. Today, I'll talk about the motivation of gamers. So first of all, let me know you. Everybody in this hall, does develop a game. Anyone who's not a developer? I just see a few hands. Anyone who says that I'm a game designer? Anyone who's willing to design and develop a game? Well, the ones who are not a designer, I hope you also will enjoy this talk. Let me talk a little bit about myself. I am a person who likes a lot indie games. As a hobby, I myself design games. However, I am here as a member of OTG. Smashboard is one of the games that I have contributed, but aside of this, I don't have much of a actually relation with the sector. I studied languages, uh, and also I did a neuromarketing research in an agency as a job, and now I am a user researcher. I just try to analyze what type of behaviors people show so that we can understand better the business impact and develop the softwares accordingly. So this is what I do professionally. I study and think about human behaviors. My job and as well my relationship with the games are all related with these. Of course, basics of human motivation is very important, so I started just researching on that. In my presentation, first I'll talk about the self-determination theory, and then I'll make some references to the challenges and sustainability. And as well, I'll talk about the narrative. I'll talk about the stories and as well intrinsic motivation. I ask this actually by touching upon two parts. Who needs the stories? And your game, does it really need a story or not? So these are going to be the main themes that I am going to talk today. Yes, let's start the motivation of a player and as a person. This is a cliche. When you see this screen, almost everyone knows what to do. Well, they can be some controls and a player, can start just working right away. And on this part of this game, what I try to attract attention is that we cannot really talk about a reward that much because a player does not know about the mushroom that will let the Mario grow and does not know anything about the fire flower. And in Mario, there is the system of scoring, if you may remember. I don't know. There are other rewards, including the scores, and even if you don't know anything about these side rewards, still you are just feeling like playing it. There is as well here intrinsic motivation. It's not external, it is internal. There are many studies going on this motivation. In 1973, a classroom was divided into two, and one of the group was just rewarded by painting, and the other group was not. And the quality of the actually works just dropped in the group that have not been rewarded. So actually, rewards are great motivators because maybe you prefer to just play a game only to motivate yourself or maybe comfort yourself. And it's maybe also including painting as a child. So that's why intrinsic motivation on that point is a great motivator, according to this study as well that was carried in 1973. And the self-determination theory was developed by Edward Deci. if you write this name on Google, you can go into the details of this theory. There are three main feelings. Agency is one of them. Well, I really just want to call it impactness. I don't know if this is the exact word in Turkish, but it is something, a feeling that will just help you out to lead your life. And competence is the second pillar of self-determination theory. So people need to feel challenged, and also they feel like they can contribute to the cause and as well being productive. Relatedness is the third pillar. It is all about taking care of others, and you are being as well cared by others. So this is the third pillar of the self-determination theory, and all these feelings actually impact somehow the motivation. If we are to simplify it, there is a tag called choices matter. While people buy things, they just think that maybe I'll change the world, or the fate of this game with my personal choices and personal decisions. And competence is another factor. Guard House, I don't know if you have heard about it. Dark's House is actually a challenging and a difficult fighting game. So Get Good is one of the memes from this game. The player just the character of the game just becomes more and more talented. Such a feeling you get, your competence level just gets better, and the relatedness is the third element. We can give maybe a lot of examples, but anyone among us knows it? Anyone remember this game? It is called Wordle. Wordle was purchased by New York Times. It is a very simple puzzle. And the best part of it is that it can be shared via social media. You try to make an estimation about the word in 6 steps, how many steps you take, and as well how much you just go forward without spoiling anything. You can share it with other people. So it just gives this a feeling to the people that they can be related with one another. And Wordle, well, it just took a lot of attention, so that it was purchased by the New York Times. It has a great brand value, and New York Times paid a lot of money on that. Let me a little bit talk about the challenges first, because we maybe put forward some challenges for the gamers, but they have to be sustainable, and I believe that it is directly related with accessibility. There can be some maybe blockages and preventions, but still people can still use these products or can be part of these environments. As you may see, about accessibility, who needs it more or who needs it less? There's not such a actually distinct differentiation in here. People may not know much about your game, or maybe they don't have maybe the gamer's habits, but anyone under any condition, well, even if they're not in the perfect condition, still they keep playing, and they can just play it. So it's really important to maybe flex all these challenges while you are putting some challenges into the games. And if you create some challenges, and if you feel like your gamers cannot really put up with it, then it is actually killing the competence, the feeling of competence, and then starts to rage quick. God of War, just to make a challenge sustainable, to force a little bit the player, while you just fight with Poseidon in the beginning of the episode 3, it's one of the actually strong fighters, and just right after the fight, the game just takes you to some points. Even the most simple actual challenges can force you, and you can even lose your hit points in the simple fights. So it's not actually a rage quit because you make the game harder and more difficult. However, the context is simple. So the players they feel as if they are Kratos and they are as strong as Kratos, so they're not being interrupted. However, just dropping the hit points to half. Well, we can give a bad example. Is there anyone who knows this character? Anyone knows it? Well, it's called Basilisk. It is actually a Minger. Just it tries to kill you by hitting you. It is the case in many hack and slash games. These actually Mingers somehow spoil the rules because they actually inhale a gas like a cloud, and if you stay within this cloud a long time, no matter how many hit points you do have, you die. So that's why these actually mingers are just like really disturbing. Dark Souls, if you play it, the worst thing that can happen to you is that if you are killed by them, your hit points permanently just drop to the half. The challenges wouldn't diminish the game. It would be the same game. However, your competency of fighting towards the challenges just somehow is being impacted. You can maybe commit less errors. However, it puts you actually in a worse condition. It can happen to you 3 times, and you can lose your lives. Actually, the number of the lives that you have, the maximum is 8. So you have to be like really talented to maybe just regain your powers. This is from the point of view from a soft point. It is one of the threats, so they never make their games actually normally more easy. It is a negative feedback, so that's why they changed this rule in this game. Because if I lose, if it is easier for me to lose in other games, then it is a kind of a circle. It's a spiral that you cannot really break down. So that's why the company just stopped it in the Dark Souls 1 and 2. Still, you have no stacks, but it is still frustrating. You are just losing your lives, but you do recover it and you keep playing. For Dark Souls 3, it is totally eliminated. You just take the competency of the player from their hand while creating a challenge. Just please think of it. If you offer a negative maybe feedback return, just rethink it. Do you really need it? Would you just impact maybe the quality of the game? You have to question all these questions. Dark Souls is another example of mine, again, on this part. Available versus viable choices. We have talked about agency and competency. It is really essential to believe that you make the correct decisions and they are viable choices. It is important for the motivation. However, in many games, there are choices that are not exactly choices. If something is required for viable play, why is it optional? So this is what it says here related to this concept. And as a response, Elden Ring Committee just says that level your vigor. Yeah, this is the answer. If it is the level your vigor, and then you can level my vigor, maybe. I can say it. I can respond to it by saying that. And by the way, it is something that, by the way, that would increase your hit point scores. You may not feel really strong. It's not like that you will maybe get a new weapon and you will make new moves. No, this is not the case. It's just only that you can handle the bigger hits without dying. Hit point is essential. You can maybe you wouldn't maybe just leave it to the player as an option. I'll show to you another game. Dark Houses might maybe inspire from this specific game, because you don't have to just offer choices. These are mask sharps. The more you collect them, your hit points will go up, and it wouldn't leave you any choice. It's going to be a reward only. And by the way, there are other solutions to that. Fronts of a tier might really surprise you. And in the next game, you can maybe just do something. It's going to create a value for a player, I believe. About the challenges, it is really important to offer options to people. You can put some choices in the areas that a player can face with easy things and difficult things during the game. Emotions can be in conflict with one another. The feeling of competence and incompetence, they can be in conflict with one another. Well, I played, for example, that game just to feel a superhero, but my competency just does not allow me to play, just feel like as if a superhero I am. So that the game can offer some options to the player, and the player can prefer if they would like to feel as a superhero or not. So there can be some conflicts in that regard. And in the stories of the game, of course, so we might have some certain expectations, but as a player, we might have some incompetencies, and it might create an indirect, actually, challenge in here. And also, there can be a conflict in between the competence and the relatedness. And we might want to impact the lives of the characters, but as maybe a player, our skills wouldn't be enough for this. How would we do it? Options for challenge is one of the ways. You will just leave it optional if it is difficult. So you would make that the players, they do not have to just take the responsibility. Hades is the last version. I don't know if you have played it. Act of a punishment screen. Well, if you play Hades, you wouldn't see this screen for a long time. Well, first, you don't know that you will see such a difficult screen. In the beginning, the game allows you to feel strong, and then just gives you the option by saying that you want to just feel stronger, and then you keep maybe selecting. Neon White has an insight level system. Faster you just complete a episode, and then you would have more points, insight points, and then you would reach to the gold level, and on that point, it would give you some hints about what to do more to improve yourself better. And if you are capable of maybe improving the character even better, and then you would have a hidden medal. Maybe you had no idea in the beginning that there was a secret episode and maybe chapter, but then in the coming actually chapters, you would see this hidden part. So I think that it's quite beneficial. You can just put such optional challenges to your game if possible. How to become more flexible? Accessibility options are just one of them. Celeste did it really great, and people really talked about it. And Celeste's brand value contributed into that. Celeste just requires in their games to give some actually motor decisions. They very clearly just inform the players that the game is difficult. They do not try to trick the player. So they very clearly give this message that this game is difficult. In this game, for example, I needed the assist mode while playing the Celeste. I really wanted to see the end of the story, so up until to the last chapter, I reached out to the last chapter without touching the assist mode. And on the last day, well, I really wanted to discover what would happen, and then I just remembered this option that I can select the level of difficulty of the game, and I just actually set it to the 0. I just changed the settings, and by the way, of course, in the end, I have realized that maybe I would have figured out the end of the game if I have worked like maybe 15 more minutes, but still, it just motivated me while I felt more comfortable, relaxed, and it is how I've played it by using the assist mode. Okay, who needs stories? Why do we need them for? A recent study was carried about on this issue just to analyze the roots of the story. The role of television exposure can change the morality expectations of people. The more they are exposed to the stories, they might, for example, expect like more maybe fairness from the world. You might have heard about this theory, the journey of a hero. Heroes first just figure out what they need, and then they just sacrifice first, and then the conditions would change, and this will change as well the hero. So this is a dramatic structure. And it is all about sacrificing. So when we say a story, well, it is the moral of the story. So of course, you can just get a lesson, extract a lesson, moral lesson out of it. And here, it just tries to give you a moral lesson. Lover Kuret is the head script writer. Well, this is an interview of him. Disco Elysium, probably have heard about it. It says that what makes a life worth living. And the answer is a job well done. As Disco Elysium, if you know all about it, then your job would be easier. It's really important here because as a player, you are pushed to make some certain decisions, and they know what type of powers you would need. And if there is a question, then it means that there is an answer. To be a good police, you would need some certain maybe qualities, and it is in this game. Kim Kotsuri, well, about this, you would see a lot of comments that are written by the players, and well, there are a lot of actually claims and the comments. Well, for example, saying that you would put fire to the maybe the shoulder of the puppies. Even, you know, this is the level of the sadness. You can empower, of course, the message that you would like to share, but it has to be clear because when we say story, it is all about the messages and as well giving moral messages. I wish I could have said it shouldn't be like really maybe ethical or moral. I wish I could have said that the message is just an aesthetical message. However, this is not the reality. This is, unfortunately, is not the reality. So we have a primate brains, and this is what it is looking for. It is ethical and moral. It is directly related with relatedness, because you feel like you belong to a community, a society, and as long as you implement this message into your life, the agency would intervene. If I give and make such a decision, I'll be rewarded. And if I don't make such a decision, I can be punished. And finally, let me tell you, maybe your story does not, maybe your narrative does not really need stories. It can maybe a small joke. Stanley's a parable. A parable actually is maybe as a joke, or maybe your game can be close to be a poem. Greece is an example for this. Greece is beautiful aesthetically and just makes you feel something, just gives you a melancholic environment. This is what it does. This is also the case for the Metroidvanias. Helloite Blissfulness is another example. Grime. Most of them are just a part of the poem segmentation. It is also the case for the From Software games. Many games, they do not really need to tell you a story. They can only maybe offer an emotional state and a condition and gives you such an environment, and then this is going to be enough. You do not need maybe a moral actually message. Well, this is all I was planning to say. I spoke really fast, but I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you. If you have questions, I can receive. If not, I can maybe share a few more insights.
How else could hit points increase? If the hit points need to increase, how else could it be possible? In Hollow Knight, we saw that you discover what's around, you find some items, and they naturally increase your hit point. How else could be done? Could it be done? But when I beat the boss, I will have more life. Maybe twice in a row, you can beat a boss. This is a trade-off, what you take and what you give away. Maybe there's not a good decision or the right decision, but still, I can say that you can find a decision that is more fit to my gamer audience. Any other idea? Comments are inaudible. Yes, that's also right, but that would not help with my frustration. Now put it away. Maybe not necessary, but can it help? From the where? I don't have any ability maybe to um, show you how it is done. Inaudible. So from software games, you can find some similar games, Dark Souls. No matter where you go over levels and come up with some stat, you have some more resistance and defense. The damage you get from some sources, but you can find better armors and compensate for that. Yes, similar things. We're done. I guess it won't go to. So maybe other than a story, that is not a story, maybe, but we talked about some games that were like poems. I'm sad that I didn't include it into my presentation, but the Boom series is like a metal, a black or heavy metal song, no matter how you call it. It talks about why violence grows bigger and bigger. We talked about paying some price and hero journeys, but there's no paying price or whatsoever. It's only the bullet in the game. Is there any other similar game that you can share with us? So we talked about Little Nightmares, and there's no explanation why the things come to that point. So our friend said that it generally works on theories more. So Pac-Man is not like a joke. There are four different characters, and in terms of AI, four of them, character-wise, are different, and they have maybe individuality. So in some places, these ghosts maybe have a character, and places where nobody cares. But still, the narrative there is very, very minimized, I can say. But I can't really imagine what Pac-Man looks like. So it doesn't mean that Pac-Man's narrative is nothing. But if you want to, define it as a saga, a poem, yes, it's even possible. Why not? If there's no other question, this is how much I can contribute, I guess.